Bonjour and welcome back to another episode of T.E.D Mini, where together we'll be learning about technology, engineering and design. In today's episode we'll be talking about electronic components called switches. A switch is an electrical component which makes or breaks a circuit. In other words, a switch can either connect or disconnect a path from which electricity can flow through. In some cases, switches can be used to divert electricity from one path to another. Think of a switch like moving stairs in the Harry Potter movies. Some stairs take you from one place to the other, while some move to stop in midair, so you get stuck and can go nowhere. Other stairs move from one landing to the next to change the place you are going to. Some stairs change on their own, and other stairs move together with another set of stairs. The same happens with switches. Switches are made up of two basic parts, a pole and a throw. The pole is the part that moves, just like the stairs. It is always connected to the same corridor on one side, but moves from one landing to the other on the other side. Some poles move from one landing to midair, which means that the circuit becomes broken and electricity can't flow through. These landings are the throws. There are four basic kinds of switches which are made up of different number of poles and throws. There is the single pole, single throw switch, or SPST for short, which is just like the stairs, which either moves to only one specific landing or just stops in midair. There is the double pole single throw switch, or DPST for short, which acts just like the single pole single throw switch, but instead of only one stairs moving from one landing to midair or vice versa, now two sets of stairs move together from two different sets of landings to midair. The poles work up and down together, and since there are two poles, it is now a double pole. However, they have only one throw each, so we call them a single pole. Double pole, single throw. There is then the single pole double throw switch, or SPDT for short, which is just like the stairs which moves from one landing to the next, changing your destination. We are now back to having only one pole, hence the single pole. However, this pole has two throws, hence double throw. And finally, there's the double pole double throw switch, or DPDT for short, which means that now two stairs move together from one pair of landings to another pair of landings, or two throws for each of the two poles. These switches can either be one of two types, latching or momentary. Latching switches simply means that when you move the switch, it will sort of lock into its new position, and it will remain there until we move it again, just like a normal ceiling light switch at home. Momentary means that the switch has a spring inside, so that when you move and hold the switch, it will be in the new position, but as soon as you release it, it will go back into its original position, just like a doorbell switch. However, normally, we do not draw momentary switches like this, as that curly line I drew to imitate a spring in electronics is used as a symbol for something completely different. Instead, we draw momentary switches like this, with two contacts on each side and a middle section which, when pressed, connects both sides. Rotary switches are a good example of a latching switch, which normally has just one pole and many throws. It is normally used in things such as cars to control the lights or wipers. Push switches, micro switches and tilt switches are all good examples of momentary switches. Push switches used to be used a lot in older cars, where you needed to press a button for the water to be sprayed from your windscreen washers. Micro switches are used all over cars, but used to be used in the old days in electric windows to stop the electric motor when the window was completely up or down. And finally, the tilt switch was frequently used in petrol tanks, so that when petrol was running low, a floating arm would angle down so much that the tilt switch would make a connection and light up the petrol light on the dashboard. Toggle switches and rocker switches are both commonly found as both latching and momentary type switches, and are mostly used in domestic and commercial lighting. Generally, when we learn about switches in science, design, technology and engineering, we are taught that a switch is normally off and that a switch needs to be pushed to make a path for the electricity to flow through. These switches are in fact called normally open switches, because in their normal unpressed position they are open, hence normally open. They're also commonly referred to as push-to-make switches, as you need to push on them to make a closed circuit. Sometimes, however, a circuit needs to be on till a person comes along and presses the switch to turn it off momentarily, thus breaking the path of the electric current. This type of switch is thus known as the normally closed switch or push-to-break switch, having the same reason as before, as when they are pushed, they break a circuit. And that will be all for today's episode of T.E.D Mini. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time.